This is a video that I want to do for someone who's asked me to explain more about the shut door doctrine and the shut door policy held by the early pioneers of the Seventh Day Adventist organization, where Ellen White and others had predicted the return of Jesus Christ in 1851. And I looked back at those videos and realized that I'd explained where it came from, but there are some things that needed further explanation on it. If you remember, well documented, I've got it well documented now, where the return of Jesus Christ in 1844, the prediction by Miller, Ellen White, and others had failed. And so now they sit here with a dilemma as to what to do. They, rather than just leaving it alone and not predicting the return of Christ, they shouldn't have been involved in it anyway. They had to come up with something else. So it was Crozier who actually came up with the sanctuary doctrine. He actually did this before 1846. He had been working on it, but he pretty much published it in 1846. And remember, Ellen White made a statement, yeah, I saw that Brother Crozier was right about the sanctuary doctrine and all that. So she put her stamp of approval on it. And what had happened is that they were trying to reinvent it. They were called the Shut Door Adventist at the time. There were several different groups. These happened to be the Shut Door Adventist. And so they go to the parable of the 10 virgins. I believe it's in Matthew 25, and where it talks about the 10 virgins, had the oil. Some of them didn't have oil, and the midnight cry was sounded, and 5 virgins were able to go in, and 5 were shut out. They said, and the door was shut. So they go to that, and they look at the shut door. That's where the shut door policy came from. So what they're thinking now is that salvation, the prohibition for people, has been shut. It's been sealed. And the way they do this is through the sanctuary doctrine. Remember, Miller had wrongly said that the sanctuary of Daniel chapter 8 was the earthly sanctuary, when anybody with any brains at all knows he was talking about the sanctuary or the temple in Jerusalem. But he considered it to be the entire earth, that Jesus was getting ready to come back, the world was getting ready to end, and the earth was going to be cleansed, not the sanctuary and temple, the temple in Jerusalem, being cleansed after being defiled by Antiochus IV Epiphanes. So after it failed, this is where Crozier came up with them with, it must have been the heavenly sanctuary that they're talking about. So now they got the new life. Well, yeah, that's it. That's right. It's going to be the heavenly sanctuary, not the earthly sanctuary. It's the heavenly sanctuary. And so they changed it to the heavenly sanctuary. And the doors of salvation is still shut. And Jesus is going to come back now in 1851. Where did they get this 7-year period from? And I've talked about that and documented it before too, how they had gone to the book of Leviticus chapter 16, where the blood was sprinkled on the altar 7 times. What they've done now, which is so ridiculous that any theologian will laugh at it, really, they've taken a prophetic verse out of Leviticus 16, turned it to a prophetic verse, and now every sprinkle of blood means a year. Now, not only does a day mean a year to them, but a sprinkle of blood now means a year to them, from a totally non-prophetic verse. So they have their 7 years. So the sanctuary doctrine is the key to the shut door thing. In the parable again of the 10 virgins, where it talks about the door shut, to them salvation was closed. Jesus was now in the heavenly sanctuary, and he had moved from the holy place into the most holy place. The problem with that is, again, anyone with any theological experience at all knows, is that Jesus never ministered in the holy place at any time. The Bible in Hebrews talks about how he went into the presence of God, how he's in the presence of God interceding for us. God was never in the holy place. Never. He was always in the most holy place. So there's no way Jesus could have ever been in the holy place. It's just impossible. That's what the scripture's clear about that. He entered into the most holy place where God was, because there's where he went himself, never into the holy place. But to them, they reinvented all of this, and they've had Jesus, I guess they had him in the holy place since he was crucified. I don't know where they've got Jesus stuck at now, I guess they've had him in the holy place since He was crucified, for over 1,800 years or however many. And so now all of a sudden he decides he's going to go into the most holy place. So when he goes in there, according to them, the door of salvation is shut. And that's where all this doctrine came about. Miller failed. They reinvented it from the earthly sanctuary to the heavenly sanctuary. When the passage in Daniel is not even talking about the earthly sanctuary at all, it's talking about the temple in Jerusalem. They reinvent it to mean the heavenly sanctuary. They come up with a theory from a non-prophetic verse that it's going to be 7 more years. So they go from 1844, that's when they predict the return of Jesus Christ in 1851. And so now they've got it all lined out again, except for one big problem. Jesus didn't come back in 1851 again. And there's when you would find that the the shut door policy, began to being dropped and taken out of the writings, although they wanted to hide it. Why did they want to hide it? Because their infallible interpreter, Ellen White, has saw that every bit of this was right. She put her stamp of approval on all the teachings that I just told you, but yet it was totally wrong. So now they've got to cover for their infallible interpreter again and correct all the errors she made there. It's just a bunch of garbage theology. Like I said, every bit of it is wrong. In fact, Crozier, several years after he came up with the sanctuary doctrine, recanted and said he was totally wrong about it. But it was too late by then because Ellen White had said he was right. The person who interpreted it said he was wrong, but their infallible interpreter, Ellen White, said no, he's right. And so they're stuck in a dilemma. They can't change it now because the infallible interpreter has already said he was right, when in fact he admitted he was wrong himself. This is the type of things the Seventh Day Adventists follow. As I've said, the Antichrist is alive and well in the Seventh Day Adventist organization. Until next time, it's Ben Golly saying, God bless.